to our performance forum class to welcome, to introduce you to wonderful Gershon, Los Angeles Master Chorale, Kiki and David, artistic director, and resident conductor at Los Angeles Master Chorale. That I introduced to you. Grant has graciously taken his time out of his busy schedule to come here and to speak with you all about something he is incredibly passionate about, music. So Grant's career is one that is well known and spoken by many, and it is such an honor to have the opportunity to have him here today. And thank you so much for being here, Grant. We cannot wait to hear from you.
Jenny, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Jenny, thank you so much. I have to say, I am going to play the piano a bit, and I feel very sheepish doing that in front of Dr. Kim, somebody I admire so much. But thank you all so much for being here. This is going to be a very informal talk, so I'm hoping at the end of this evening that there'll be time that we can have questions and some conversation around this subject of music. So music is something that is so hard to talk about. I mean, virtually impossible, because what is it? It's sound. Which is vibrations in air. You can't touch it. You can't see it. It's wavelengths that are all around us, and yet it's a miracle, right? I mean, we all have that sensation and that experience of music. It can make us want to get up and dance. It can make us want to sing along. It can make us feel happy, make us feel sad, and most importantly, it can make us feel all those things in between and all the emotions that are impossible for words on because they're very complex. Music is this thing that unlocks so much of who we are as human beings, and again, I look at it really as a miracle and also as a gift. I'm curious, how many of you here are musicians? And actually, further on that, because maybe that's just being a little too specific, how many of you either play an instrument or enjoy singing? Keep your hands up. Of the ones who don't have hands raised, how many of you enjoy music? Okay, that's just about everybody here. As I say, music, it's a gift. I think as musicians, it's also a responsibility. Because as musicians, we were born with this gift that we didn't ask for. It was unbidden. And yet it's here, it's a part of our lives, and the responsibility of that gift is to share it. The world is a very difficult place right now in so many different ways, but the ability to share beauty, to share communication, to be real with our music making, and to therefore touch souls and illuminate the spirit. I mean, that's really, again, I think as musicians, that's what we're here for. Again, as I said, this is kind of a very informal talk and conversation. And I'd love, of course, to sprinkle it with some actual music, because, as I say, talking about music is, wah, 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 wah. But, so I'd like to go ahead and play, this is a Bach fugue from the second book of Well-Tempered Clavier. And I'll just say that during the darkest days of the pandemic, when we were all isolated, I was first off very lucky because my wife, Melissa Johnston, is a wonderful singer, and so we were able to make music together and play songs and sing duets even and stuff. But the other great comfort during that time was Bach, was the music of Bach. And I had both books of Wagner Clavier on my piano for virtually the entire 2 years, and just taking comfort in choosing. This fugue is the D major fugue from Book 2, and one of the reasons that I love it and would love to share it with you, I think, is that it is one of the most vocal and choral of all of the keyboard fugues. So literally it's in 4 parts: soprano, alto, tenor, bass, just like a choir. And so right away, given what I do for a living with conducting choirs, I think I felt a particular affinity to this fugue. But also, I think there's something in the simplicity of this fugue. There's basically one subject and no counter subjects, no counter themes. The subject is that's the first half, and then the second half, and it's that then it comes to building blocks for this entire. It's like building a Gothic cathedral, just one stone at a time. So it rises, and I look at this piece as like this beautiful chapel that Bach is constructed out of the very simplest of means. So that's just, again, the fugue in nature. about my own background, and particularly how I came to the LA Master Chorale, which is this organization that I'm so proud of and so inspired by, all of the singers and everybody around the organization. So I started out as a pianist. My mom was a piano teacher, and my older brother and sister were both taking piano lessons, and so I basically just started out of sibling rivalry. And that motivated me for the first few years that I played. But the thing that absolutely changed my life and made me who I am today was falling off of the high bar in gymnastics when I was a freshman in high school. And I broke my arm, spectacularly, fractured my elbow, I was in traction, had some surgeries and stuff, and it meant that I wasn't able to play the piano for about a year. But this was my freshman year of high school, and I signed up for choir that year because I was going to be accompanying the choir, but of course since I couldn't play, I ended up being roped into the tenor section. And that was a revelation because I had never had that experience of making music with other people and making music with friends and creating this something that's larger than what you can do individually. And so even though I eventually got back to piano in college, I always kept singing in choirs, and that was, and all of my friends seemed to be singers and other musicians that I would do chamber music with and sing duets with and all this kind of stuff. So I never imagined that I would be a conductor. I thought conductors were like complete jerks. And I'm not sure that's not true anymore. But I got hired by LA Opera after I graduated from USC, and LA Opera was just starting out at that point. This was in 1988. And so because it was just starting out, I was one of two people on the entire music staff, and it was just jumping into the deep end, and I had got all this experience that I don't think I would have had in an opera company that was kind of more mature and had kind of a more set structure to it. And so in the course of that, I was of course playing rehearsals. I was also playing in the pit whenever there was keyboard, playing continuo for the Mozart operas and that kind of thing. And then also ended up conducting like backstage and conducting in rehearsals. I remember the first time that I stood up in front of a group and conducted, I had no idea what I was doing. Basically, all I knew how to do was make music with my fingers and my voice. So I think my conducting was kind of like really ridiculous. But I was kind of I met Esa Solomon, who was the music director of the LA Philharmonic starting in 1992, and he kind of took me under his wing and became a mentor to me. And that was, through Esa, I had all these experiences working with the LA Philharmonic, and just kind of like learning it. Basically, that job description for 3 years was I was attending every single rehearsal and every performance of the LA Phil. So whether it was Esa conducting or guest conductors, I was just there like 24/7, watching other conductors work with the orchestra and learning all the music as we were going because I was understudying all that. And I have to say, for conducting, that's probably one of the best ways to kind of figure out like what to do, what not to do, or more to the point, the fact that there's so many different ways as a conductor to communicate with a group of musicians. And so it was really interesting to watch, Esa, who has a very distinctive way of dealing with musicians, and he's wonderful. If you ever have a chance to see him conduct or to see him in rehearsal, it's just amazing. But then to contrast that with, a few years later, Gustavo Dudamel, who's also just, phenomenal, just the most brilliant musician. And they are completely, there are not two human beings on the planet that could be more different, one from the other. Gustavo, who is, of course, a big extroverted, Venezuelan, South American, so, hard on his sleeve, exuberant, funny rehearsal and just oozing charisma. Esapeka, who is Finnish, and so my wife is half Finnish, so I can say this. The Finns are known to be a bit reserved, and my favorite Finnish joke, which is actually the only Finnish joke, is the one about the Finnish man who he loved his wife so much he almost told her. And so that was kind of like Esapeka is simply a few words, but it's all through the gesture and the way that he invites musicians into the space was, and as he would put it, just creates a framework in time, like molding time so that the musicians themselves can then put their own personality and their own expression and their own humanity into that space. That's something that I really took away from when I came to the Master Chorale, and now I've been here like 20 years. And the Master Chorale, just really briefly, is at this point it's 100 singers. It's a fully professional ensemble, so we're the largest independent professional choral ensemble in the country, probably in the world, actually. And of course we're in residence at Disney Hall, which is pretty great. And we're recording a lot. We are touring. We've got a really vibrant a set of education programs. And the singers of the Master Chorale, I have to say, are just some of the most brilliant and versatile musicians that I've ever worked with. Now, I wanted to play a clip, and you'll have to forgive me for a second, because I'm just going to set up the pepper here, wake up my computer, and see if...
Can they get power down?
Yeah, turn it off. Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay. While we're setting this up, I'll just say one of the projects that we've been doing at the Master Chorale, we started this in 2016, and it's a piece by Orlando De Lasso, who's a great Renaissance composer in the late Italian Renaissance vocal style. And this is a piece called Lacrime di San Pietro, The Tears of St. Peter. And I wanted to play this clip in this context, talking about the power of music and the ability to communicate, because this is a piece that it cost us so much sweat and blood and stress to get it up on its feet. It's 21 sacred madrigals that the singers memorized, about an hour and 20 minutes of a cappella music in 7-part polyphony in archaic ancient Italian. And not only memorized, but then through the brilliant and iconic stage director, Peter Sellers, staged everything. And the point of staging this piece was really, what we kept talking about was to unlock the music, to focus on what the words really mean and how that we might express that in our bodies. So this clip, which you won't be able to see very well because of skylights and whatnot, but I think that's okay because you'll be able to hear and really the point of the movement that we created for the piece was, again, to explore kind of greater depth in the music. So what the piece is about is the Tears of St. Peter. So it's talking about Peter, the disciple of Jesus, and the remorse and regret and shame that he felt for the rest of his life after he had abandoned Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane and then denied Jesus at the trial the next day. And so this is a great sell for a marketing team, because it's basically 21 sacred madrigals that deal with grief, shame, remorse, and self-loathing. But Orlando De Lasso has just a recital, just piano and singer. And they had chairs set up all around us, behind us, and on the stage with us was a South African choir. And they were dressed in very fantastically beautiful, colorful robes. And of course, they were the best audience you could imagine throughout the recital. And at the end of the recital, we had done a couple of encores, and we had run out of music. And the choir stood, and they started singing for everybody the South African national anthem, which was the anthem that had been the rallying song of the African National Congress for decades during apartheid. It had been banned, it had been illegal to sing, and so they started singing it, and of course the entire audience started singing as well, and sang this national anthem, everybody standing and crying, and Nelson Mandela right in the front row. And to me, that was the most emblematic example of music unifying, and music bridging what seemed to be intractable gaps between people. It was just a microcosm of kind of a better world and a better society that we lived in. So that's something that I've just taken with me forever. I'd love to share with you another piece by Bach. This is a prelude from the first book of Well-Tempered Clavier, and this is another one of the pieces that during the last couple of years I would come back to again and again, because it has, I think it's still here, it's in B flat minor, and it has this combination of sadness, wistfulness, and at the same time, with this incredibly beautiful, rich harmonies. At the same time, there's a delicacy to it, and there's a sense of ascension as well, because the lines are always leading forward and leading upward in space. So this is the B flat minor prelude from the book 1 of the Well-Tempered Clavier. again, 5. So you just keep coming back, and it just keeps revealing more and more about all of us. I wanted to just kind of close with a couple of thoughts, and then I'll just play one other thing. And this is just, what I gave a talk a few years ago to graduates from the working school, and I talked just about a couple of things for musicians that I think are really important and have been things that I've come back to again and again, lessons that I've learned. So it's 3 things. The first is to be a good colleague, to believe and know that it's a bountiful universe, that there are so many opportunities for everybody. It's a tough business to be in, but if we're genuinely supportive and encouraging to each other, it comes back to us. I'm sure a lot of you have discovered that over time, but it's it can be a rough business, and we're all in it together. So just be good to each other, be supportive of each other. The second thing is to keep listening to all sorts of different music. Just open yourselves up as much as possible. I know we live in this time, it's such a gift that we have, YouTube and video and streaming, and that we have so much. We have access to virtually every kind of music that has ever been conceived on the planet, and so I think really just taking advantage of that gift. And, I'll say for myself personally, I used to say that I love all music with the possible exception of country. But then, somebody said, well, what about Patsy Cline? And have you listened much Willie Nelson? And then it's just like, oh my God, Doc Watson, and on and on and on. So it's like, don't just say, like I was, like, oh, everything except for that. Because just, open yourselves up. Ask people who are into that, what should I check out? Because everything we listen to informs who we are, and also opens up bridges and opens up other kinds of communication, other kinds of connection. And then I suppose the last thing is to just to seek truth with every note that we play, every phrase that we sing, to always find humanity in everything we do. So whether it's whether you're singing an opera aria or an art song or something that's words that are not written by you, but you find what is that connection between your own experience and and if it's instrumental music, it's thinking what are we really wanting to say with good sing? What is the most beautiful and truthful way to approach this piece of music? And there's no one right answer, obviously, and that's why every interpretation of any given piece is going to be different in large ways or small, but we're always looking for that truth and that real sense of humanity. So I'm just going to close out playing one other thing that I really love to play. And I should make a disclaimer too. I'd actually brought in some things that were a little more flashy and stuff. I've been having some trouble with my left-hand thumb, and so that actually gave me an excuse to kind of pare back. And so I'm playing nothing but slow things. But this is a piece that probably a lot of you know. This is a very well-known intermezzo by Brahms, the intermezzo in A major from Opus 118. And I just shared this with you because, again, it has no words, but it's really a song. And like so much of Brahms' piano music, my score preparation, I could just say kind of in a nutshell, and that's something I really learned from Asa is, Well, there's a great quote from Helen Rilling when somebody asked him, how do you study a score? And he said, I open it. But I think the point is just, you take the time, you literally just look at it and try to figure out what's going on. I always look for the big structured spurts. So I'll just, look, is it like, is it an ABA form? I just kind of look through the whole thing, kind of see like the big structure, and then the little structures within that. I tend to mark not a whole lot, but whatever works, if you're marking a lot or marking in different colors, whatever works best for you, you prepare for first rehearsal. If it's a choral piece, I do try to sing through every part and play through each piano, just to make sure. One just really practical thing is to anticipate questions, because questions are the bane of any conductor's rehearsal. So if you can anticipate, if you first off you'll find if there's any misprints or mistakes. Also find make decisions about every breath, every phrasing. Every phrase shape, so that you come into the first rehearsal and you can quickly impart all the information that people need to be able to read through the piece and anticipate any of those questions, so that you can rehearse. The goal is always to rehearse as efficiently and productively as possible. So that's the point of the scores again. So it's like whatever gets you to that point for the first rehearsal is what works for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Here at CGU, we have previous through the one strategies. I know it's what we're going to talk very good. I get what I was saying. You are able to consider result with those status like trade force doesn't mean get down to my users. Yeah. How much do you think about that in this chair?
Yeah, talking about performance practice as actual performing musicians and how much that the historical research that we're the beneficiaries of now goes into our preparation. And I'll say for myself, I feel fortunate to be living, in 2022 where we have the benefit so much more knowledge about performance practice than we did, when I was a kid, back in the 60s and 70s, and it's a field that's exploded so much. And we also had some, members of our ensemble work very knowledgeable about specific periods and specific eras and also regions geographically of music, and so I use them as a resource as well. And I suppose in the end, you take everything that you can find about performance practice and about what the composer would have heard, what they would have imagined, what they would have expected, and then you have to translate that into what then works in a modern concert hall. And some, if we're not looking for period instruments, how do you translate that into a piano, for instance? But I think that to me the most important thing is that we arm ourselves with as much knowledge as possible, and that's why I feel indebted to all the people who are doing that research. I think it's lunch.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I would like to express sincere gratitude to our chairman of music department, CGU, Dr. Sapula. We cannot be here like this. So thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us today, and thanks to everything. Please enjoy the light refreshment.